Hi, everybody. We got a wild week cooking in the weather world with multiple threats for storms, including flooding and severe weather this week. I'm especially honing in on Wednesday and Saturday. Hi, everybody. I'm Chief Meteorologist Chris Justice, keeping you up to date on everything. We've got a wild week of patterns coming our way with multiple low pressure systems, not only bringing flooding rain, but a lot of snow and ice to New England up through the Northeast. You get multiple rounds of severe weather possible across the South, including the risk for tornadoes at times. We got a wild week with several different fronts to watch that are coming toward the south and the east. We need to watch this closely with multiple threats. Today, you can see those threats for wintry weather are up toward Virginia, West Virginia, and those areas are expecting quite a bit of snow. Elsewhere, we're kind of the calm before the stormy week. And in fact, we've got cool conditions across much of the areas. This week is going to be a good bit cooler, which could lead to ice in some locations as low as North Carolina up through parts of Virginia. But let's talk about that severe threat. I want to get right to that because as we move forward, today is a bit of a calm day. As we go into tomorrow, we see a low pressure system building back toward Texas. This is one I've been previewing for you for a couple of days now. And we need to watch this because moving forward, this could provide the focus for more storms as we move forward. And going into Wednesday, there's a marginal risk for severe weather. I think this is going to be confined to Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, maybe the panhandle of Florida. There's some general thunderstorms that'll get into Georgia and the western Carolinas, but that threat looks to be mainly to the south and west due to cold, cooler air being pulled up right here through the day on Wednesday. Now, as we get into Thursday, we'll have to watch as well. Right now, that probability is too low, but Thursday is somewhere I'd be watching for the western Carolinas if we can warm up. The front looks to come through in the middle of the day for areas toward the coast, so that might be where we get it. Friday, we take a break. There's not much going on. Saturday, we've already got a big signal from the computer models that it could be very stormy in the south. Where? It looks like specifically Alabama and Mississippi into West Georgia. But should some of that activity hold together, it could roll into East Tennessee, into North Georgia, or even the Carolinas as we move into Saturday as a big-time low-pressure system comes our way. You've heard me mention it a couple of times. I've been relying on the Colorado State University severe weather outlook here, and it's been really proven to be quite useful here lately. So as we unpack this, as we look closer at Wednesday, that would be our next threat. This is an experimental type model that kind of crunches everything in the atmosphere down to a risk, similar to what the Storm Prediction Center does by hand. It's showing a tornado probability creeping up here through Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama going into Wednesday. Again, that's the track of that low pressure, so coincides right there with it. Hail being possible as well as strong winds. Let's fast forward to our Thursday, because Thursday is one of those days I think we need to watch. It's low risk for the Carolinas and Georgia, but there's a low pressure coming in, and it's providing a lot of soaking rain. And if we can warm or destabilize just enough, we could get some tornado risks in the southern part of the upstate through the I-20 corridor, Columbia, back through Atlanta, and then back into Birmingham, southern Mississippi. Same with the hail, same with the wind. It could be a severe day where you get some isolated severe weather, not widespread. But like I told you guys, last week we had an EF2 tornado in Tennessee. There wasn't an outbreak, there wasn't multiple ones, but unfortunately that EF2 claimed the lives of 2 people. So we need to watch out for this moving forward. And then Saturday, like I mentioned, this is Friday into Saturday. Friday, that front's leaving, so there could be a wind risk as that front's leaving. And then going into Saturday, let's look at Saturday. As you see, Friday night, you got this low developing back here toward Texas. And then Saturday, there is already, from our Colorado State University model, a high probability of severe weather. This would be for northern Alabama into Mississippi. It's even got a little box right in here to show it could be the possibility of some strong tornadoes. So we need to watch this. A medium risk for severe weather, a high risk for severe weather back here, according to this computer model. This would be as we move through Saturday specifically, looking at that. And the Storm Prediction Center already has side by side. Storm Prediction Center is right here, and this Colorado State is right in here. So you can already see the fact that the Storm Prediction Center is already placing a risk on it this early tells you something, and this is what the model's showing right there. So that's why. All right, why specifically? Well, we got a couple low pressure systems coming in. Tonight, we start to get wet. It starts to get showery tomorrow. Rounds of heavy rainfall for the western Carolinas, but it's not just rain. It's some ice here across the western North Carolina mountains up through Virginia. It turns to snow. Think snow in the north, rain and severe weather in the south this week. It's going to be a big-time impact. And then moving forward, this rain train just continues here into Tuesday night. It's just pouring across the Carolinas and Georgia, just relentlessly raining, which is concerning for areas that have been impacted by Helene. This may be the first time some of those creeks, streams, rivers, and banks are tested by floodwaters. We need to watch that closely. And then here comes our low. This is our low that twists and turns the air. So Wednesday, let's go to Wednesday afternoon. This would be 4 o'clock. In here could be some storms. You're warm, unstable, and you got that twisting and turning of the winds from this 999 low over West Tennessee. Meanwhile, it's bringing in a lot of rain. That moves up toward the Midwest, strengthens the ice and the snow. Warmer air getting advected in here, so snow turns to ice along the spine of the Appalachian Mountains. Snow breaking out through a good bit of the Midwest and upper Midwest through New England into the Northeast, and it's going to be big time for those folks. Rain finally ceasing here Thursday afternoon, and we take a break for Friday, but not so fast. Remember, that more volatile low-pressure system on Saturday starts to crop up, and Saturday morning, here we go again. More rain starting to crop up across the Carolinas. Hopefully, we're wedged in and cool with rain, but right now it looks like we have the potential to get into the 60s. Notice this low back here cranking in some warmth into the southeast, and here comes that low trekking up through the Midwest. That means anywhere in here would be vulnerable to twisting and turning. So somewhere in the south, especially farther closer to the front, where you get that combination of warm, unstable air and the twisting and turning of the winds, we could have a severe threat develop with this as we go into Saturday night. But right now, looks like more rain is on the way. And then beyond that, we're cooling down a little bit. Those of you asking, are we done with winter? Not so fast, but there's nothing concrete as far as storms. There's this guy coming in Wednesday the 19th, and we need to watch that closely as we move into that time frame. Looks like more rain. Another one of those deep low pressure systems on the 20th. I mean, this thing just track does not want to let up. And then going into the end of the month, looks like we're starting to become more mild and tame. We'll enjoy that week after several weeks of active weather. How about temperatures? How are they going to behave? Well, let's go to our Tuesday. I mean, it starts to get really cool. Notice the 40s here. You're not going to get severe weather with that on Tuesday. But going into Wednesday, notice how that wedge of cooler air is trying to break down. I don't think the Western Carolinas have much of a chance of severe weather on Wednesday because of how cold it is. But down here, notice how it's 80, 69, 71, the farther north you go. Savannah, Georgia, Charleston, 75 to 42 in Greenville, Spartanburg, to 37 in Asheville. That gradient right here, this area could be a boundary for severe weather, and that could migrate to the north into the southern parts of the upstate, including Greenwood, Abbeville, Augusta, Columbia, and then you get it back through Atlanta. So possibly bumping up against the I-85 corridor, but that wedge is going to hold strong until it lets go. And then Thursday, that front's pushing off to the east, so you'd have that threat go along with that cold boundary. Friday into Saturday, how do we shape up temperature-wise? Well, hopefully we remain cool and stable. This model showing we're 40 degrees Saturday morning at 10 a.m. Does it hold? That's the big question here. Here's 4 p.m. Notice that wedge of colder air. Oftentimes that wedge right in here, do you see it? You see that separation of cold blues and warm oranges? That would be the boundary that would separate severe weather risks from non-severe weather risks, and we would need to watch that really close because that could be the boundary, the exact boundary where severe weather is found because you get that separation, and oftentimes there's some micro spin. So looks like most of the upstate will be safe from that, but it really gets close to Greenwood, Abbeville, Atlanta, Augusta, Columbia, 62 to 46 from Columbia to Greenville. Charlotte to Columbia, same story. So we need to watch Saturday closely. Anywhere in this area would have possibilities of severe weather, including tornadoes. So we'll have to watch that Saturday. Sunday, we cool down, and it looks like for at least a few days next week, we're in the single digits and teens here in the high elevations of the mountains to start off the 17th week and then we gradually begin to warm up. But it's a cold for a couple of days there, of which we haven't seen for a while. How about rainfall totals? Boy, oh boy, we're talking about some serious rain here. 3 to 5 inches of rain through this week across the Western Carolinas. So again, the streams, the creeks, the river banks are not the same since Helene. So we need to look out for the fact that they could be carving some new paths. Those banks aren't dealing with solid ground, so to speak. So as these creeks have found new paths, those banks are very vulnerable to crumbling down. So if there's temporary bridges, you need to plan accordingly. Those temporary bridges have held up great, but a lot of them they're not permanent structures. So maybe park your car on the other side and know that you may have some difficulty getting in and out, especially in western North Carolina, Lake Lure, Chimney Rock, Edneyville, areas that have these kind of pedestrian bridges or vehicular bridges that are kind of just there to suffice until we can build a real strong one that can withstand a floodwater of this. We need to look out for it. Now, this is nothing. I hope I never say the numbers we saw with Helene. This is 5 inches of rain, folks. We had 17, 18, 19, 20 inches of rain with Helene over the course of 3 or 4 days. So I don't see that at all. But, we do get flooding several times a year. All right, so here we go with the severe threat. Let's go into Tuesday. Again, we're cold and stable here. Wednesday, same story, cold and stable in the western Carolinas, but back through North Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi. We got to watch it because if that warmer air can try to take hold of some of that colder air, we could get some of those stormy activities in parts of the Carolinas. Then Thursday, this would be Thursday morning, so again, not likely to get severe weather in the morning, but could have some rumbles of thunder. But as that front leaves, like I mentioned, there's some possibilities here with that cold air coming in and that front leaving the coast. So Columbia to Charleston to Myrtle Beach to Raleigh, down through Savannah, South Georgia, could end up getting some strong storms on Thursday. That rolls out and we rebuild things on Friday. Look at this. I mean, folks, this is a springtime setup. You got Cape that's up around 2,000. That's fuel for storms if I've ever seen it. This would be Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon, that fuel streaming into Mississippi. Again, we're cool and stable, or trying to be here in the Western Carolinas. But by Saturday night, you see that little void of instability. That's because we're cold and stable here. If that can hold true, the severe weather would stay along that boundary and south. But remember how I said along that boundary. I want to stress that. Along that boundary could be severe. And then going into Saturday night, depending upon where that boundary sets up, you've lost the daytime heating. So the ability to get warm here is probably nil. But South Georgia, South Alabama, Atlanta South could see some strong storms after a day of severe weather back here through Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama. Could be really rough back that way with tornado risks. Lightning, could we see lightning at a couple of different times this week? Yes, Tuesday to the south. Here we go to Wednesday. Some of that gets as far north as Alabama into Atlanta. Could there be some storms on Wednesday night, Thursday? More likely in the southern part of the upstate, Thursday morning. A couple of rumbles of thunder waking you up in Columbia, and then that pushes off, and then Charlotte. Thursday afternoon, there's some storms happening here across the I-95 corridor. And as far as lightning is concerned, that's where we get to. Let's advance that model out to Saturday because I'd expect a lot more lightning on Saturday. Here we go, Saturday afternoon. Lots of storm activity back here along this front, and that front marches east. And again, running into cooler pool of air here. So we'll see if that severe weather threat spreads from Alabama, Mississippi into Georgia and Carolinas. Right now looks to be a lower threat. What about moving forward? Moving forward here, we've got a couple of different patterns to come in to say we're pretty cool through the 19th. All right, what about beyond that? We are wet. We are wet and cool. So looks to be warm enough to be rain in the south, a cold rain, but stormy at times, but really, really wet and snowy toward New England if your travels take you up that way or you're watching right now. Beyond that pattern, the 17th through the 23rd, we are cold across the good bit of the United States, and we are wet in the southern United States. So we'll have to watch that pattern. Beyond that, we get back to normal temperature-wise, but stay wet. Looks like we're wet the end of February through March 7th, according to this current outlook, which we actually could use, folks. The new drought update came out, shows Every single county in North Carolina is under a drought. And as we look closer at South Carolina, almost all of South Carolina is under a drought, as well as North Georgia. So we need some rain here. We're going into a rainier spring type season, and we'll need to watch that. Those of you hoping for snow, as I advance this model out, chance for 1 inch of snow or greater through the 25th. North Carolina North seems to be the battleground, with maybe Beach Mountain, Sugar Mountain seeing some of that, but elsewhere it's looking pretty low, 10% chance or less. All right, folks, thank you for tuning in. If you can, please let me know where you're watching from. Like this video, subscribe to this channel. I'll keep you posted on all things severe weather this week as we move forward. If we get severe weather, if we get the possibility of lightning or tornado warnings, I'll be the first to let you know and keep you posted along the way as we are watching this volatile pattern that is setting up across the eastern United States. It includes storms, severe weather risks, flooding included in that, and then the possibility of a lot of snow up through New England into the Northeast.